I'm Brandon Pizarro. I'm 13 years old. My record is 13 wins and 5 losses. I'm ranked #1 in the nation. I mean, it's awesome. It's phenomenal. Sargus is the best conditioning coach anyone could have. I mean, I went to ringside with no problem. We spar 8 rounds, no problem, not getting tired. Your stamina's always up, and it's just awesome here. Ever since I started coming here, I started hitting more harder, and I feel 10 times stronger. So when I came here, I went to ringside when he was helping me. He was training me, my personal trainer, and I had knocked someone out. And I mean, it just feels awesome being with him.
Beautiful. Hands come out.
With Brandon Pizarro, I have the benefit of training him sometimes hand in hand with Vic Vasquez. Like I said before, Vic Vasquez he's got 24, 25 fights under his belt. He's an accomplished professional boxer. And to me, Brandon is little Vic. He does what I make Vic do, and Vic does what I tell him to do. If I tell him to deadlift and then box jump and then sprint in that order, he will. And he does it, and he does it well. So Brandon falls in line, and when you train a 13-year-old that has his boxing ability like a professional fighter, well, you get that #1 world ranking that we've gotten already.
Ain't nothing like Sargus Strength Systems. It used to be the scariest thing for me in here. I'd rather spar everybody, get knocked out. I mean, they're very intense workouts, and their design is extremely brilliant. Jason is brilliant. He's not just, I mean, he's so many things, but once you've been through the circuits and you start to feel the results from them, you fall in love with them. You look forward to that day or that circuit, that pain that you have to go through, because you know what it's gonna benefit you when it comes time to actually fight. When you feel it in your training, you're building functional strength, and it's nothing like it. You're getting stronger and you're lasting longer. That should be the name of the game for anybody who wants to actually compete, and that's what's happening for me, you know.
Anthony Terrell carries a significant amount of muscle. I mean, you can just take a look at him. I don't need to tell you. With that, the demands of that muscles require oxygen. So, you know, we needed to push his lactic acid threshold. We needed to make him, like I said before, we need to make him stronger, longer. And in 2 minutes, unless you're holding him down doing nothing, he's probably going to beat you for that first 2 minutes, given his hand speed, his foot speed, his strength, and his overall level of athleticism. Where the worries that we had for Anthony initially, going pro, was that, you know, at the 4-minute mark of the first round, he starts to become human. Once that lactic acid starts setting in, and once that fatigue starts setting in, he has normal hand speed and normal footwork. Still an incredible athlete, but not nearly as dynamic or as explosive. So we did some state-dependent training where we put him in an exhausted state and forced him to stay very technical and very, very fundamentally sound, though he was already exhausted and already fatigued. And again, going to that forced exertion state and having to defend a takedown when already exhausted, making him being very fundamentally sound defensively when he could barely hold up his hands. doing that and then turning him loose on a Marius Anash when he was 100% fresh allowed us to get out of there in, I think, 2 minutes and 15 seconds.
Everybody that gets into the Sargus strength systems, you can automatically see the results. Even if you ain't doing it, you know somebody, we got guys in here that's on different regimens. All of our schedules don't always meet, and I'll run into one of my teammates throughout the week, and I can tell, it's a dramatic difference in their physical conditioning, the way they feel when we grapple, how long they can go, how long they can punch without getting tired, and still be able to grapple effectively. Pushing when you're tired is what it's all about, and his system is set up beautifully to keep us extremely technical and extremely functional, through being exhausted. I mean, let's be real. 15 minutes of fighting, whether you're in shape or not, is going to fatigue you at some point, to some extent. So, with Sargus strength systems, that's just going to be another day in the gym, and you're going to be used to it, and you're going to be able to push through it like it's nothing.
Milton Santiago, I think if you take a look at his body of work, he's an accomplished amateur fighter with 180 wins to only 6 defeats. The goal for him now, though, is to make that jump to the pro game. No more 3-rounders, and we're going to be fighting men. So his boxing ability is there. His coaches, his father, the talent level of the training staff he's been around has been just all world. Been very, very impressive. He needs the strength and conditioning to support that jump to the pro game. And he's going to increase his hands to be 16 years old, and hoping to make the jump to the pro game in the next year. He's got power and snap on his punches. He's going to have more as he develops man strength, starting strength and conditioning on the level that we're accustomed to here is going to mature him faster. And I think when you see him fight as an 18-year-old fighting 21-year-olds, 22-year-olds, 23-year-olds, whatever you put in front of him, you're gonna wonder who the kid is, because it's not gonna look like Milton. And Milton's gonna look like the adult. He's gonna push the pace. He's gonna have the man muscle, the aggression, and the power over whoever you put in front of him.
When I spar, I do about 8 to 10 rounds of sparring, no problem. Not even breathing hard. It makes my conditioning level above advanced.
Good. You guys know what to do. You guys are beautiful. You guys switch both ways. That's gorgeous.
Hey everybody, Tom Backman, the Big Casino, 3-1 pro fighter, fighting out of Brazen Boxing and MMA here in Old City, Philadelphia. The conditioning here, and I think everyone's been feeling it. The people that have been going with us, man, it's just it just changes the playing field. You're able to do exactly what you want to do for as long as you can, and it's a different thing, and it's all owed to Sargus. It's not just CrossFit stuff or whatever. I mean, some of it is, you got to switch up your days and things, but he really pays attention to how things are working with it. It's just like you can't do too many days of plyo, you can't do too many days of just cardio, you can't do 2 days of just strength, and he switches it up all around. I can't even get into all the details because I don't even know it most of the time. I'm stuck in it, and I'm just happy to be able to speak English and breathe and drink water after those things. So you know, it's a game changer, man, and he really pays attention, and you don't notice then, but you know, when you're able to take a step back and see how he treats all the other fighters and how he works with them, you start being able to project that onto how he does it with you, and you really start seeing the genius behind his work.
When Tommy Backman came to Brazen, he was still an amateur fighter, and I believe his last fight was about 185 pounds. Now you take the +1, which I'm sure he took advantage of, and that makes it 186 pounds. He decided he wanted to fight professionally, and in doing so, he thought 155 pounds was the proper weight class for him. And in his first 3 fights, we got him to a 3-0 record. And if you look at him, in his fight against Mike Pandolfini, he looked to be the stronger, fresher athlete in that second round. He looked fit, he looked trim, he looked mobile and agile, and he won that fight. In his fight with a very game James Caro at Locked in the Cage, Caro was on a 2-fight win streak with, I believe, 2 knockouts or at least 2 finishes, and he ran through Tim Sylvester, who's just a stud black belt. And you know, I remember him from his Maxercise days, and now I believe he's at Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. So you realize that James Caro is a significant threat, and if we came into that fight out of shape, it would probably be to our detriment, given that I don't see anyone finishing Caro easily or quickly, so we knew it would be a grind. And we were able to push a pace against him, and we got out of there in the 3rd round, and we won via submission against a guy who I think most people thought had a more accomplished wrestling and submission game. And we beat him. We beat him there. And then we took that trip to Morgantown, West Virginia, and we beat up a very tough, very game Dave Forsyth. We got past that one. So we turned Tommy into a legitimate 155-pound fighter. He's got good length. He's got good size for the division. And we've been able to do some good things with Tom. He's been very, very vital in demonstrating, if you buy into the system, what you can do. You know, Pandolfini comes out of the Daddis fight camps, and he's a tough guy. We were able to get through him in 7 minutes. Caro had a significant track record. I think he had 20+ amateur fights. So, you know, I think we showed that we were the better conditioned athlete in all those fights.
Brazen Boxing MMA, all day, every day, brazen or bust.
Brazen Boxing and MMA is probably the place you want to be in terms of any type of like martial art that you want to learn. We're not only we're the top end of the city. Look us up on Google. Look up at all our reviews. Ask people that have gone to Brazen. You know, I can tell you a lot of things that are great about Brazen, but just to show you how this place is not, my views are not biased in it at all. Look up for yourself. You know, look at our prices. We are the cheapest boxing gym in the city. Another thing too is our program. Look at our class schedule. We offer boxing throughout the whole week. And we know this is 9 to 5, you know. So we cater to that 9 to 5 crowd. We have a lot of young professionals and young students that come here, you know. This place in the program, designed by Jason Sargus, he definitely he definitely had in his head that, you know, there's a lot of people that work 9 to 5 that want to get a good sweat but still stay in shape, and he catered to that. So not only are we the cheapest gym, we're the nicest gym, the cleanest gym, the most flexible hour gym. And you don't have to take my word for it. Look it up. Go on Google, go on our website, look at the other gyms, and you can see what I'm saying is a fact.
As an athlete, the benefits of working with under the Sargus Strength Systems banner. If you want to increase your hand speed, foot speed, 60-second recovery, whatever your goal, whatever is needed, will be addressed and will be rectified or resolved. We have certain protocols for whatever you need improvement upon. I see most people lag in the recovery aspect. You see that 60 seconds not do as much for them in between rounds as they could. I'd like that 60 seconds to be almost a full reset and bringing that heart rate down from 140, 150, even 160 beats a minute back down to 98, 99. If we can get it to those double digits, you can see a higher output, a punch output, if it's MMA, wrestling and grappling output, during that 5-minute round or during that 3-minute round. And then we can bring that heart rate down. We can get that recovery in that 60 seconds. So that's the goal. That's the hope. With any athlete, I'd like to make them faster and I'd like to make them stronger. But in the end, I would like to make them stronger, longer. That's the goal. And we can really grind out a win. We can force exertion. That forced exertion is when other fighters want to rest, is what I think separates the athletes I've had. I've wrestled for 30 plus years. I've been in the grappling game for 10 plus years. Jesus, since 1999. So, you know, I've got a background in wrestling and combat sports. I've got some boxing matches in West Virginia. Fought for Steve Simons in the Bash for Cash on 4 occasions. And I realized that the criteria and some of the things necessary for combat sports in regard to strength and conditioning are different, and I felt like they were being missed. And I also felt like some of the traditional strength and conditioning that you saw didn't account for wear and tear on the body and the potential for joint degeneration and some of the basic things that we go through, having been whether a college wrestler or if you've boxed since you were in your early teens. So paying attention to those things, and you know, I've been unfortunate enough, at the same time lucky enough to have required, I think, 13 or 14 surgeries in my lifetime, and that made me modify a lot of the movements and a lot of the exercises that we still use for my athletes, and I think it's benefited them. Some of the things that you traditionally see with you know, now you're seeing with the advent of CrossFit, muscle ups, and the like. I think they're great in building core strength and joint strength. But if you fought through several Kimura's that day, it might not be the best idea to stress the shoulder joints in that way. So we've kind of, I don't want to say we've revolutionized, more or less modified the way things are done. We can make adjustments to rep ranges and timing intervals, rest intervals, and we can get the most in a relatively short time out of our athletes.
Sargus Strength Systems is our trademarked method of training people to be fight ready or to be in the ultimate physical condition. It incorporates not only interval training and strength training, but advice in terms of diet, weight maintenance, and weight cutting if need be if you are a professional fighter. Sargus Strength Systems also works for non-fighters who are trying to be in peak physical condition. Jason Sargus has worked with professional models who are training for a particular look, for a particular shoot. He really understands what you need to do to achieve, whether it's functional strength, to improve your grappling, speed, agility, explosiveness for other fighting skills, or trying to work on body fat loss and lean, lengthening looks for people like professional models. He really has the scientific basis for what to train, when and why, and how to feed your body to achieve those goals.
I think there are plenty of benefits that women can get from Sargus Strength Systems. And maybe it's a little bit of a bias for me because I'm going to marry Jessica Richmond, and she's my business partner. But at 36 years old, she can deadlift 300 pounds. And to me, that's pretty impressive. And you couple that with her Ivy League law degree, and she becomes a pretty formidable individual. So, you know, the ability of women to build strength and muscle mass. You're not going to look like a man. You don't have the testosterone level or caloric ratio to support it. I mean, now if you're taking in 4,000 calories and you're throwing in, you know, some vitamin S, maybe things will change. But you know, if you want to look like a fit, athletic, strong, powerful woman, then you can do that here. And if you take a look at Jessica, she's you know, she looks strong, but she's also stronger than she looks, and she's as tough as they come. So I think if you're a woman and you want to get in better shape, you can do that here. If you're a woman and you want to fight professionally, you can do that here. If you just want to see if you can train like a pro, if you can handle the rigors that accompany that, you can do that at Brazen Boxing, Sargus Strength Systems.
Just for those females that feels a little shy working with guys, we have just female classes only. If you can see a little bit towards your left, you have right now the female classes going on, and it's just a family thing going on. You know, it's beautiful, and once again, that stamina, as soon as you start working out, you will love it. You will love it. This is Brandon, this is Angel, and this is Pat. So you guys can see, you got a 13-year-old, you got a 17-year-old, and you got a 22-year-old. And look at their body, the way they look phenomenal. And it's all about hard work and dedication, especially when you have a great trainer like Jason Sargus. And if you guys, these young crowd, with young boxers with a body like this, imagine these older guys that is stronger. And not only that, we make them nice details like with meals, what shake to drink, what meal, how to work it out, what time to eat. And this is what you're gonna have if you come here to boxing, to Brazen's Boxing MMA Club.
We at Sargus Strength Systems are able to tailor a specific diet plan to the individual. The goals and the caloric needs and the requirements for the individual are just that, for the individual. They're definitely specific. So you tell me your goals. We take a look at your current level of body fat, and there's also the aesthetic as compared to performance. Like sometimes walking around at 4.5% body fat looks outstanding, but it's not the best for performing in a combat sport. So we take into consideration what those goals are, and then we tailor that diet to those needs. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach. If you're doing that, that's great. Saying that protein is good is such a generalized statement. Certain levels of protein are going to be better depending on what your requirements are. Certain levels of carbohydrates, whatever your macronutrient ratio, it's going to be specific and dependent upon whatever your goals are, or whatever the criteria base is going to be.
Well, Brazen Boxing and MMA is the only full-service boxing and mixed martial arts gym in Philadelphia. You can do a great technical boxing class here, great technical MMA class, any of the individual disciplines, and then you can also do your strength and conditioning. We have a full-service functional training, high-intensity interval training area set up. Actually 2 of them, so we could be training you strength-wise before and after your technique classes, so you really get that full sense of what is it like to train when I'm tired, and what is it like to actually spar when I've already exhausted my muscles past what I think they can do. There's really no better way to learn to fight in an important and functional way in real fight type conditions, with the safety and the intelligent training of you're not going to stress yourself out beyond belief, but you're going to understand what it's like to fight and train when your muscles are fatigued and you're feeling that real fight time stress.
I think if you ask people what the most common nightmare that they have, the most common fear that wakes them up at night, it's being engaged in some sort of physical altercation, and you try to swing and you're just too slow. You just quite can't make contact. Your timing isn't there, and you're fighting a faster opponent. You reach for someone and you're slow, or you try to run and your legs don't move. that is what nightmares are made of. And when you fight in a professional fight or even an amateur fight, and your abilities leave you because of lack of conditioning, lack of cardio, lack of muscular endurance, that's hell. I mean, and that fighter coming at you is fresher. It seems unfair, and it certainly seems dangerous. It's a frightening possibility. Now, if you have the ability to respond, or you have the ability to keep your top end speed, we're very, very close, 90 to 95% of that top end speed, with footwork, head movement, hand speed, all those things considered, well, then you become a very difficult fighter to face. And if you have none of those in the third round, and they're still there, then you become a not so difficult fighter to face. It's integral for success in this game, because once you get to a certain level, everybody's tough, but it's who can be the toughest the longest, who can be the strongest the longest, who can keep their speed throughout the course of that fight. And once conditioning leaves you, it'll make you a mere mortal, and sometimes less than that. And you see fighters who no longer have the ability to go just because they're not conditioned to find a way out of fights. And it seems like they almost intentionally duck their head into a guillotine just to get out of there, or not defend any ground and pound, knowing that if you don't put those hands up, the ref's gonna stop it. But they're just short, choppy punches on the side of your head, and you don't even raise those hands. It almost seems like they find an out. And I think having that level of conditioning gives you options. Gives you options to stay in there and continue to compete. It takes away that fear and that anxiety of not being able to move or respond. You take away those fears and those anxieties and you replace them with confidence, well, that's a pretty impressive thing. And that's what we're able to do with Sargus Strength Systems. Angel's 24-4, and you know what his father's been able to do with him, and really building his boxing pedigree has been very impressive. I think if Angel Jr. had a little more conditioning earlier on, I think you'd see a fighter who's 28-0. For a 123-pound fighter to have as much power as he does, it's pretty impressive. I have no problem putting him in sparring with our 155-pound pros. He's got that much pop, that much power, that solid of a chin. If you can couple that with the strength and conditioning that we have here, and we can push his cardio and his conditioning to that level, and he doesn't fatigue, well, again, it's not a question of when, or not a question of if, but when he wins that world title. You know, he's a 17-year-old boy. When he becomes a full-fledged adult, if he can keep that level of conditioning with the boxing expertise that he already has, and still building on both of those, then you're gonna have a goddamn animal in front of you, and it's gonna be a scary, scary thing for anyone from 123 to 130 pounds to deal with.
Beautiful speed. Keep that speed. Good. Good. Get that speed together and kill that body.
Well, honestly, I recommend this gym to anybody, not just friends, you know, family, anybody. You know, this gym is top of the line, man. You know, you mentioned Jason. He's actually the best coach. He's actually the best conditioning coach anyone can have. I promise. Like you mentioned Jason, like I said, everyone knows him. Top of the line training, best conditioning coach, and we have a great team over here. I recommend this to anybody, not just friends. So whenever you have a chance, come through. It's on 3rd and Market. And it's a very wonderful gym, phenomenal. You'll get the best training, I promise.
Warm up a little bit. Good, beautiful. Now go get some air. The 1, 2. Yeah, good. There you go.
It's totally different. I've been to Norma's gyms, and all I could say is a totally different workout. I've been to Norma's gym, like I said earlier, and it's more like prison workout. That's what I see in the other gyms. When I came to this gym, is like totally different. My kids got phenomenal standing and resistance. And before they used to get a little tired through rounds, now it's like nothing bothers them. Especially my pro, Victor Vasquez. We do 10-round sparring, 8-round sparring, and it's like we're in the 4th round sparring. I mean, his stamina is phenomenal. And I guarantee that you guys, whoever comes through that door, you guys is not gonna be worried about absolutely anything, because it's like a family and you guys gonna love it. Whoever comes through that door is gonna love it. As soon as you walk in, it's like a family hug.
I think the benefit of having me on board as your weight cutting and rehydration specialist is that I have a hands-on approach. I mean, if you ask Paul Felder for the 48 hours of his weight cut and his rehydration, so a day before the actual weigh-in and a full 24 hours after, I'm with him every second of the way. I make sure he eats at the correct timing intervals and the correct macronutrient ratios. We also have a protocol in place where we're trying to create an environment where the body is going to utilize the water for rehydration purposes and not digestive purposes right off the bat. So we wait 90 minutes. There's some other things, I'll call them trade secrets, if you will. I don't want to give too much insight, but using the right glycogen mobilizers, or using the right supplement at the right time. And again, timing is everything in this game. Rehydration, timing, and blood sugar are all very, very, very important. And if you're not paying attention to those factors, then it's going to be to the detriment of your athlete. And you know, if you can deal with me for 48 hours straight, which most people can't, but if you can, and you're a fighter, well, I think if you look at Paul Felder's 5-0 record, I think that speaks for itself. And 4 of those guys took a nap pretty early, so we got 4 by KO. And once again, I think those results speak for themselves.
Jason is a great strength and conditioning coach, amazing wrestling coach, amazing MMA coach, and I've never, in all my years of doing this sport, met someone who is so prepared as a corner man and as a coach cornering fights as Jason. He's prepared for if the guy gets a gash all across his face. He's prepared for all kinds of various things, and I like that, and I like his demeanor. He's serious, and he cares for everybody in this gym and wants to see this gym reach its maximum potential.
For a while, I was working pretty closely with boxing trainer Billy Briscoe, a very, very bright trainer, very, very skilled trainer, and a fantastic cut man as well. And so, you know, he brought Gabriel Rosado on board, and I believe at the time, Gabby was maybe 9th or 10th in the world by the IBF, and that was, I think that was his only world ranking. So he knew that he was going to have some more challenging fights, and Billy saw what I was able to do with some of the athletes I had here, athletes he had never heard of, and strength and conditioning protocols he had never seen. So I was lucky enough for Billy to believe that there was some merit and worth to our system, my Sargus strength system, and we put Gabby through the rigors of it, and I had him for 3 fights. The first fight I had him was against Jesus Soto Carras, and he had never been stopped, never been knocked out previously, and Gabby put it on him. I think it was in the 5th round. And this is a guy Mike Jones had trouble beating in their first outing, and a lot of people thought maybe Soto Carras won that fight. And Jones is a talented individual, so it tells you, how good Jesus Soto Carras is. Then up next was Seshu Pao. And You know, they said he was a crafty left-hander. We were looking at another guy before then, and they said maybe he had the size to match Rosado, and maybe Rosado was just bullying Karash, and then there was a size mismatch. Well, I say we cut weight pretty well and we rehydrate pretty well. If you don't do it as well, start lifting weights and get a better nutritionist, because that's our advantage. And I think you saw how, you know, Gabby was able to match the size and strength, and the craftiness of Seshu Pao didn't quite come into play in those later rounds when he was tired and getting bullied and pushed around and forced to exert himself. So we got out of there, I believe, the 9th or 10th round. You know, being able to score with some high volume of punches late in the fight, where other guys are starting to fade. We're able to keep that pressure. And Gabby's abilities, coupled with Billy's game planning and the strength and conditioning to power all of it, made the difference in that fight. And then you go to Whitaker. Charles Whitaker was a tough guy who hadn't been beaten in, Jesus, almost a decade. And we knocked him out in 10. And I believe we knocked him out down three, 4 times leading up to that. And it shows that if you can stay on that gas pedal when people want to take a break, when they want to get comfortable, and you can force them in that uncomfortable realm, well, you know, being able to push through the 4-minute circuits and 5-minute circuit or 5-minute rounds, 4-minute rounds that we do, those 3-minute rounds where all you have to do is punch and maybe slip some punches, not quite as daunting or tiring or fatiguing whenever you've been prepared to the level that I believe he was for those 3 fights. And then after that, you got, you know, Triple G is a whole different animal. I don't know. I stopped working with Gabby, and he lost that fight. But you're looking at one of the best in the world, and maybe when all is said and done, one of the most powerful punchers of all time, pound for pound in Golovkin. So, you know, whether or not I could have made a difference, I don't know. I like to think maybe I could have somewhat. But like I said, watching someone of that caliber on the world stage, it was for a world title. And, you know, win or lose, Gabby showed some true grit and a ton of heart. So, you know, whether or not he won that world title, the 3 fights prior, he did work here and he worked with me. And I'd like to think that that had quite an effect on getting him to that high level. Love me or hate me, you gotta understand I'm good at my job. And if you want to take your game to whatever level, whatever you're willing to do, whether it's be a world champion, a state champion, you wanna go 10-0 on the AMI scene, you can do that here. We have the ability to make you a faster, stronger, better athlete. It's gonna require some discipline and some commitment from the individual, as well as from me and my staff. But you're going to get it on our end, and if you're willing to reciprocate, well, I honestly believe sky's the limit. And if you belong to another gym and you want to avoid it because of whatever territorial pissing contests are taking place, that is going to hurt your game, all right? My guys will be the better conditioned fighters. And, you know, it's not a threat, but I'm saying you're probably best served to avoid them.